I'm Tony Sklar with bnetTV. We are here at IBC 2012 in Amsterdam. I am speaking with Mr. Duncan Potter of Edgware. How are you today, sir?
I'm very well indeed, thanks, Tony.
Excellent. Enjoying the conference?
I am indeed, yes.
This conference has taken on so much legs compared to its previous years because of the onset of multiple devices, broader bandwidth, and the like. Where does Edgware sit within this ecosystem, and what are you doing here at the show?
So Edgware provides a video distribution capability. We have a framework that we call Distributed Video Delivery Networks, which is really made up of two component parts. It's made up of video servers that can be deployed right down in the network. So they're more like network devices than a typical server. And then we have all of the control software that's required for managing a large video distribution system, as well as being able to operate that as a CDN. So the operator can actually develop their own CDN capabilities.
Okay, what makes Edgware better than your competitors in the CDN market in this space?
Really, we focus very tightly on three areas: content monetization, infrastructure optimization, and flexible service offerings. So the first piece of that is content monetization. We can offer the operator an ability to literally build their own CDN with their own APIs, own interfaces, that then allow the content operators to understand what's going on with their content. The next piece is the infrastructure optimization. The devices we have are capable of living way down in the network. They're very highly optimal and use very, very low power and don't require any additional cooling or special conditions, which means that they can be deployed anywhere. And that in turn means that they can be deployed very close to the subscriber, which gives us far greater control of the quality of experience in what we're actually transmitting out to whatever the device is that they're actually trying to look at.
Do you think that there's a shift in the industry for operators to control the CDN themselves so that geolocated advertising or contextual-based ads can be monetized in a better rate?
That's what we're seeing at the moment. Certainly, 2 years ago we were all talking about multi-screen and over-the-top and this kind of stuff. Almost all of what we're seeing at the moment is not just multi-screen offerings, but it's multi-screen CDN offerings. So this appears to be one of the big transitions that give the operator the ability, or certainly the operators we're talking to are all talking about how they can build their own CDN, how does this interact with their existing CDN partners, can I take this, can I actually optimize my infrastructure by putting my own CDN in place. So yeah, almost every multi-screen deal that we are looking at right now, or deployment that we're looking at right now, involves CDN.
Doesn't the idea of running your own CDN increase CapEx tremendously? Whereas in past years we saw that move outside of the business to standard points like a Limelight, like a Bright Cove, like an Akamai, and now you're saying that people are gonna or companies are gonna bring that back in house. I don't think when we talked about that sort of 2 or 3 years ago, what we were really talking about was when you listen to an Akamai or a Limelight or engage with them, they're talking about what they refer to as the edge of the network, which is actually a peering point. Right. Their value proposition to an operator is that they can deliver the content into the, if you like, the back end or the top of the network. And most operators are fairly unwilling to have somebody else offering a service especially embedded in their own network. It's their network. Why would they not own the service themselves? Now, when you're deploying video transmission or a video distribution system, you already have to build all of the capability to be able to manage that video distribution and transmission within your own network. The CDN offering of that is literally a management layer which fits on top of it. So at that point, if you've looked at video distribution and you've looked at premium service offerings and how you're going to be able to deploy all of that, you're probably about 80% of the way there to building your own CDN anyway, and the rest of it is then just the management interface and the back end and the account management and stuff like that. Storage you're going to have to build in anyway. Policy is probably the really big thing, but policy you're going to have to deploy anyway for the from a sort of DRM standpoint, for the simple reason
that you still have to manage where the content goes.
Right.
So look at all of those points. Actually, what you've done is you've built 80% of what's required. Now, the other thing is, if the operator is building it themselves, they at least have control. They have control of the CapEx, they have control of the OpEx. And where we fit into that, where Edgware fits into that, is to make sure that this is a pay-as-you-grow type system.
Okay.
And that's a vitally important piece, because this area is changing so fast. There are no definitives in terms of an ROI, in terms of what this might look like from a financial exposure standpoint. So being able to pay as you grow, add bandwidth easily, add storage easily, deploy into certain parts of the network, deploy to certain audiences or certain types of devices as you roll out these services, and making sure that the CapEx expenditure is matched with the revenue expectation that you then have. That's actually where Edgware has shone in the past and continues to shine and deploy now.
So let's talk about what you're doing here at the show this particular year, and what some of those new products are that are allowing your customers to manage their ROI, if you will.
So the way that we deploy is we have a framework that we call distributed video delivery networks. That's made up of two major component parts. The first part is the video servers that get distributed within the network. Our video servers look more like network devices. Anybody familiar with networking devices would recognize these devices straight away. They're very small, half rack depth, 1 RU, 85 watts of peak power, no special cooling required. That means they can go anywhere. Once you have that, then there is the control and management software which goes on top of that we call Convoy VDN. Convoy VDN is a modular system that can be deployed pretty much anywhere in the network. It can be deployed in a data center, it can be distributed around, or it can even be deployed in a cloud configuration. And what that basically means is that there's a lot of flexibility that the operator has for how they want to do things, where they want to do things. And what we've really focused on is making this as intuitive as possible. There's a lot of people out there talking about simplification of CDNs. Well, if you look at the restrictions that they're then talking about to provide you with a simple, one could almost claim that this is stupid, right?
Okay.
In fact, if in English we tend to have simple and stupid way apart. If you actually look at most other European languages, simple and stupid are the same thing.
Okay.
So you have to be very careful with that word. What we've tried to do is really focus on making this as intuitive as possible. So a very clean architecture that can be implemented across pretty much any infrastructure, assuming there's IP. And then a very easily distributed, very easily implemented management system that has all of the requisite component pieces. A clean request router that can be scaled up very high, almost infinitely. Content router to be able to identify where all of the various pieces of content are likely to be if they're not on the actual server itself. A recording manager for the implementation of things like NPVR catch-up services and this kind of stuff. And then the overall management system and back-end APIs, an easily published, very easily implemented set of APIs for operations, for content, for the account, for the content providers, and then a very easy to implement API for ingest.
Okay, but that's those are some fantastic products, and clearly each one of the areas in the ecosystem look like you're being able to deploy them separately.
Yeah. Some of these can be deployed separately and certainly individually. What we tend to find is that most people are going to they'll implement the video servers, they'll implement request router, and then the management system. As the requirement grows for them to be able to distribute content across, maybe multiple sites, multiple data centers, multiple countries certainly, even multiple continents in some cases, then what we're really talking about there is the need to implement the content router or recording manager type capabilities. One of the major enhancements that we've put in place is really two things recently. The first one is a much better ability to manage storage where content gets deployed. And the second piece is the ability to easily add in external origin servers. So instead of having to ingest everything,
what we're able to do is, assuming that the content is available on an external origin server, what we're able to do is to easily add that into the system as well. So that makes content acquisition and content distribution very, very easy from that standpoint.
And then, Duncan, if you had to say, you know, again, 3 of the great things that makes Edgware better than your competitors to end off with, what would those 3 things be?
One, it's a highly intuitive architecture. We can explain it on the back of a napkin, which, unlike some of our competitors who love to confuse everybody with complexity, you know, these are, it's a very simple, clean architecture to understand. The second thing is that it's a pretty comprehensive system using the same topologies for both multi-screen and also IPTV. If you understand how our multi-screen solution works, you're going to understand how our IPTV solution works. And as we move into next year, what you'll see us doing is converging those two as well, so that you get the benefits of scalability of IPTV and all of the benefits of coverage and additional service revenue associated with multi-screen. And they're common products. They operate across those environments in the same way. So rather than what you see in many cases of a completely separate IPTV versus multi-screen solution, these are actually the same products converging, and we're addressing all of the complexities of how do you get the benefits of multicast in a multi-screen solution, things like that.
Duncan, thanks very much for taking the opportunity to speak with us here at IBC. I hope we get a chance for an update again in the future.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much for coming by.
Thank you. I've been speaking with Edgware's Duncan Potter here at IBC in Amsterdam, and I am Tony Sklar with bnetTV.